Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I have a couple cards here using some new My Favorite Things products along with an older stencil. This week's Color Throwdown Challenge is a really fun color combo. It was like an aqua, a red, yellow, and orange. So I wanted to make the aqua color part of my background. So I mixed some Peacock Feather Distress Crayon on, just scribbled it on my craft sheet. I've shown this before in a previous video, and I just mixed it with some white embossing paste. I wanted to make it a little more aqua, so I tried mixing in a little bit of the Twisted Citron color. Just gave it that little bit of hint of green. So they do mix quite well into this, and I purposely wanted it to be paler. That's why I didn't use inks or anything to make it really like an intense color. So once I was happy with that, I'm using the My Favorite Things Circle Burst stencil. And rather than tape it down, since I'm going to do two pieces, because I was pretty sure I had enough to do two, I just held it down with my fingers. Also, since I wasn't covering the entire piece with the stencil, that way I could hold the stencil in place and the cardstock with my fingers, just making sure not to let that stencil shift when I was applying the embossing paste. So I just kind of scraped it on very messily. I didn't want it to be perfect. So I did end up having enough. I don't know how I manage that sometimes, but I did have enough for both pieces. And then rather than take it to my sink, I just use baby wipes to wipe it off. If you do it quickly enough before the embossing paste has time to dry at all, you can clean it with baby wipes depending on how much is left over. Or definitely put it in the sink. You do not want to let that dry on your stencils or on your spatulas or anything like that. So I set those pieces aside to dry. And then I have the new Fly by Friends stamp set from MFT. It's so cute. So I've been dying to use it. So I wanted to use the two big flowers in this set, and I didn't feel like cutting apart the dies because partly just laziness. And also with images like this that have like a long, narrow, a stem or just a long, narrow area, it helps to line them up like that in the dies so that they are stamped perfectly straight, regardless of whether or not you're gonna die cut them. It just helps doing it like that. I've shown how to do that, with the Misty different things, but you can also just use a large acrylic block like I'm using here. So I had them lined up and spaced so that they will fit in those dies, and you'll see why in a little bit later on. But I stamped them multiple times. This is Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor paper, the cold press watercolor paper, which I'm really loving. So I've stamped on the textured side, and I just coated it with anti-static powder first, stamped the images with Versamark, and then embossed them all with detail white embossing powder. And then I mentioned this in a previous video, I forget when, but my Wink of Stella, my clear Wink of Stella has technically gone dry. Like I've used up all the product in it. Do not throw them out when you're done with them. Most people know this trick, but I thought I would show it just in case you don't. There's still a ton of shimmer left in these when you're done with them. So I've never actually refilled one myself. They do not come filled with water. There's like some sort of formula in them really that makes them kind of permanent, but that's irrelevant. I just pulled it apart. I used tweezers to pull off that black part at the top there, and I didn't realize it had that little like piece attached to it. I've never pulled them apart before, but pulled it apart, and you can either pour water in, or I used a pipette so I don't get water everywhere, and I could show it on camera. Otherwise, just take it to your sink, fill it with water. Totally works. And then I just made sure not to put in too much so it doesn't come oozing out everywhere. And yeah, gave it a little bit of a shake to mix up the shimmer in there. And now I can go ahead and use it. So I squeezed it a little more than I should have. I was just, seeing whatever, just playing around. So squeezed it, and then I'm just scribbling here on a sticky note. And you'll see in a second, like there's tons, and I do mean tons of shimmer still left after you've used up the product that it comes with in the brush. So I turned on the flashlight of my phone. Sorry, my brain is just so tired right now. Turned on the flashlight of my phone so you can see the shimmer, and I'll show it some more at the end. So this is what I'm going to use to do my watercolor. You could use just the regular Wink of Stella with images this small, but the Wink of Stella it's not actual water that comes in them. So they aren't really meant for watercoloring, but sometimes you can get away with it. But for this one, since I had already put water in it, it was perfect. So I'm using my Clean Color Real Brush markers in just 4 different colors. So I'm just using yellow, orange, carmine red, and then turquoise green, and just scribbling on a little bit of each color and then pulling it out with this Wink of Stella water brush. So it ends up being this super insanely shimmery watercolored image, which is so fun. So I just went about doing one color at a time with applying it with the marker just to like inner corners, and then using my Wink of Stella clear to pull it out and create, you know, the watercolor look. And yeah, if you're hearing random noises, Gavin is now sitting in my lap because that's where he needs to be so that I can get work done. So I did all of these, let it dry, ignore that one in the corner. That was the one I'd messed up with and got a little impatient and didn't let it dry. And now you can see again how shimmery it is. It's so fun. So I used these coordinating dies to die cut them. And now you can see why I had lined them up like that, because then I can die cut 2 at a time. Yeah, Mommy can die cut 2 at a time. So it made it really, really easy. And after I had done the flowers, I decided to stamp the butterfly, the small butterfly in the set, and do the same thing. So I'd stamped it and embossed it and then colored it in with the same technique and the same markers. So I'm going to die cut the flowers first, and then I'll go back and die cut all the little butterflies. Oh. Should you do my voiceovers from now on? Yeah, you should. So did those, and then I used this new Hello There die set from MFT as well. I love the fonts of this. So I die cut the hello 3 times from MFT's steel gray cardstock. I was going to do black because that's normally what I do, but the inspiration picture looked more, it was more of a taupey sort of color, and this was the closest I had. So I die cut it from the steel gray cardstock, and then I adhered all 3 together with my multimedia matte. And the background, the stencil background is dry. It dries quite quickly. I don't know. It sat for an hour or 2 really between everything. So it was dry, and I just wrapped some yellow baker's twine around it. And then I'm going to use my reverse tweezers here to hold the knot, because baker's twine especially can be a little bit finicky if you want to tie it in a bow. It likes to twist and go its own way. So the tweezers hold the knot in place so that I can get the bow actually tied and, you know, fiddle with that a bit before pulling it tight, and then pull out those tweezers and pull the bow tight, and it's all perfect. So I let the tails hang down and just cut off the excess with my scissors. So once that was done, I'm going to start adhering everything together. So my die cut flowers, I popped just a little bit of foam tape on the main parts of them. I didn't worry about the stems because it's not even going to be noticed. Those are going to get covered up by the die cut sentiment. So popped the flowers on with some foam tape, and popped the little butterfly as well with foam tape so that everything's kind of sticking out. Plus this adheres them really well over something like this embossing paste, because the texture of it makes it harder to adhere things to. So I usually like to pop things up with a little bit of, you know, dimensionals, foam tape, whatever. For the sentiment, I used the Cool Tack clear foam tape just because it's easier to kind of hide that. It doesn't, it's not as noticeable as if you use like a white, the foam tape, you know, the regular stuff. So I popped a little bit of that on. I just trim it down with my scissors so that it's narrow enough to kind of hide behind the sentiment. And then got that popped into place. And then I'm going to mat that with a piece of MFT's Sunshine yellow cardstock. So I popped that on with foam tape as well, just because usually once I get started, I can't stop. And then my card base is heavyweight white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 11. And then I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 with my Teflon bone folder, and then press down that crease really, really well. So got that, and then I'm going to just adhere the entire card panel flat to the card. No foam tape this time, otherwise it would be insanely dimensional. So got that adhered to the card itself. And then I have my remaining die cut and colored flower and butterfly for the inside of the card. And then there's a sentiment in the set. And rather than stamp it in black, I thought I'd do something different. I'm trying to step out of the box here a little bit lately and, you know, stamping sentiments in colors. So I used the same color as the cardstock. I used MFT Sunshine ink and stamped the sentiment. And then since my multimedia matte adhesive was sitting here, I just used that to adhere the flower and the butterfly to the inside of the card, and that finished it off. So like I said earlier in the video, I will have links below to my blog post, which will have a link to the Color Throwdown Challenge. There will also be links to all the supplies used, so check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping my videos, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!